Yo, what is up YouTube? I'm back with another EVOMON video, and today I'm going to be going over my meta tier list for PvE. Now do stay tuned because, I will be going very in-depth into this, and hopefully you guys can kind of understand why I'm doing this and, why I'm talking about this. So, as you guys know, I am currently level 64. I am at the highest ascension you can get at the moment, and I do have all of the EVOMONs in the game. Now I just have the ones that are currently in the game, obviously. And if you guys have been following me, I am trying to get all of the shiny versions. It's definitely been a trial, but I think I am well versed enough to give you guys a proper meta tier list on the best PvE. Now, if you guys don't know what PvE means, basically PvE is like when you're playing the game, how well a monster will do as you progressed in the game. So PvP and then there's PvE. You know what I'm saying? So they're different, but they're kind of the same, but they're different. You know what I'm saying? So over here we can go ahead and kind of start off a bit randomly, I guess. Or I could just start off with Archipex actually. So with Archipex, so with PvE, I would say he is very, very good. Now then, as being said, I'm gonna be going off of how good they are as a monster, not including the availability or how easy it is to get them, just overall like PvE experience and like how well they can kind of carry you throughout the game until you eventually want to try out PvP essentially. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at my Archipex over here. Okay, so let me go ahead and take all these guys into my little area, into my little inventory. Okay, so with Archipex, if you guys don't already know, he is the boss, or the final boss, or he was the final boss until the newest update came out, and then obviously released these new islands right over here, like these new islands. But over here, you actually get him in Thunder Cliffs as one of the bosses. So do be warned, he is level 175 or 180, depending on, I guess, his level, I guess. So with that being said, Archipex is a very, very strong monster. All right, let me say that again. A very strong monster, probably one of the highest stats for a damage type of monster in the game. On top of that, having one of the best traits to just overall do insane amounts of damage. And yes, I will be going off of their legendary traits, not everything else, because you know what I'm saying, legendary traits are unique to them. Well, certain legendary traits. But yeah, so with that being said, Archipex is very, very good, very versatile, I would say. Has a very good stat pool overall. Pretty low special defense, but that's okay, because usually you are somewhat faster than the CPUs or the NPCs and whatnot. Over here you can actually see 115 base physical damage, so that's insane. On top of that, you can probably increase its stats overall with just equipment in general. I like to just give him a very strong move like Thunder Retribution when he's at level 140. I think he unlocks it. So with that being said, he is very good for PvE in my opinion, because a monster that can just basically one tap anything it goes against is very good in my books. I usually use him to kind of just farm whenever I'm just want to kill regular EVOMONs. It's usually pretty easy by just using Archipex. All of the basic things, you know what I mean? So that's why I would really recommend getting Archipex as soon as possible, because I think he is probably one of the best overall PvE monsters. Even against a type disadvantage, he still is able to output at least half their HP, if not all of their HP as damage. So I would really recommend getting Archipex as a very good PvE monster. So on to Astronites. I am going to try to speed this up just a bit, just so we can kind of get through this all. Astronite is very good overall. I ended up falling off and not really using him too much later on in the progression stages. He's very good, kind of a bit lackluster, a little underpowered when it comes to like overall damage and everything else. A very good standstill like monster, like as in he can take a lot of hits and also deal just enough like damage to kind of beat him up. Also one of the monsters that knows protect, very good move, and also can apply fatigue. So a very good monster overall. I used him for probably half my run, but I don't quite think he is the most amazing for PvE. So I'm gonna probably put him probably decent. He's still good, don't get me wrong, but I think there is a little bit of a fine line between very good and decent. You know what I mean? Blazemane, from my experience, I don't really use Blazemane anymore, if I'm being honest. Blazemane has always been like kind of like a situational, I guess. Well, not even situational. He's just kind of underpowered in my opinion. So I'm gonna put him in decent. Well, how do I say? I think Blazemane is okay, but for PvE, he gets countered very, very like often. So I'm gonna actually put him situational. Might put Astronite in situational as well, just because of the protect, that he can be very situational and very good in situations. So I'm gonna actually swap them, put Blazemane in decent, and then put Astronite in situational, because it's not that situational is worse than decent or anything like that. It's actually because Astronite excels in stalling and really like just staying alive, so that's why he's very situational. Boltonia, also a very high damage monster. Very, very fast. I believe second fastest in the game, if I'm not mistaken. Vulcrest with a 122 stat line right here, as you know, Boltonia has a 121. So as we see, 607 speed is what my current Boltonia has. Obviously, I have them very much optimized. In my opinion, a very strong monster. Like, definitely a very strong monster candidate. I will say true damage is a bit... It's okay. It's not my favorite. I will say it's not my favorite. Boltonia is very good monster, very fast. In PvE terms, I would say Boltonia is very good. Because of its speed, it usually can outspeed any regular, like, NPC, trainer, whatever the case. It should outspeed majority of them, even just leveling up regularly and not even like trying to optimize them in general. Bablade. So with Bablade, in my opinion, very good starter monster. After that, very trash. I don't use him anymore because he's kind of just buns overall. I can understand if you still use him, but there's just so much better monsters. Like a Meerfish easily beats Bablade, like pretty easily. Its legendary trait is decent, but it's not really all that in my opinion. So I'm gonna put him in decent. Blazemane is probably gonna go above him because of Blazemane's move Meltdown. It can remove status effects for 2 turns, so that's why I have Blazemane up there. Phantom, I'm going to put probably decent, strictly because of its bleeding attacks. Very, very good, but just not quite impactful enough. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't really help me that much. You know what I mean? I quickly replaced him very, very fast, not gonna lie. Chitladin, very good, I will say. I want to put him in the best overall category because Chitladin has a special trait that basically all the poison damage that you deal, you will heal that amount back. So a very, very good tanking monster, I will say. Over here, oops. Yes, over here, Leech. When enemy foes takes poison damage, heals for 66% of it. And poison damage does a lot of damage. So that's why I will be putting Chitladin in best overall, just simply because it can probably out heal and just overall stun, or not stun, but just stall a crap ton of monsters, like pretty easily. Clan Xor, I originally put him in the meta, but he is a bit underwhelming, I will say. I will say the traits for him, the legendary trait is very good. Otherwise, he's not that insane by himself. I will say Steel Smash is pretty good, guarantees critical hits for the next 2 turns. However, he doesn't really have anything else going for him. So I'm going to actually put Clan Xor in the decent, maybe even very good. Yeah, I'm going to put him like bottom very good. Like he probably hovers around decent and very good. Clipexor. Let me think. For PvE, I will put Clipexor in the very good category. Well, probably under Boltonia. Now, hear me out. Clipexor is very good monster, but I feel like they're more of a setup type of monster, meaning when you are fighting a monster, PvE, etc., you typically want to beat that monster as fast as possible. Whereas Clipexor, generally, you will probably be setting up with like Shadow Reap, taking away its ult charge and just dealing overall like damage like that. I believe Clipexor is a very, very good EVOMON. However, when you're using him as in PvE terms, he doesn't have enough time to fully show his potential. So that's why I'm actually going to put him in the very good category. So on to Data Nymph or Datu Nymph. In my opinion, very lackluster. I'm not a huge fan of Data Nymph because when I was using her, she wasn't very, how do I say, effective, I guess. Sleep Powder is definitely a very insane good move. However, he doesn't really have the traits to kind of back that, nor does he have the stats to back the speed. So that's why, even though he has Sleep Powder, I don't really see him being that crazy in PvE because there is a better Sleep Powder monster. So with that being said, a very good hallucination. I'm actually going to put him in top of decent simply because I would favor her ability to place hallucination over the ability to place bleed. Well, yes, because on top of that, Data Nymph can also place Leech Seed and just overall heal and just kind of stall. Fluffar. So, I originally didn't understand Fluffar, right? I recently started looking more into Fluffar, and Fluffar is actually a really insane damaging monster. If you guys don't know, Prism Beam deals special damage to the target and power scales with the user's special defense advantage. Basically meaning if my special defense is way higher than yours, I'm about to deal insane amounts of damage to you. Examples are like Lava Rocks. They have very good defense, but not that good of special defense. So a llama versus a lava rock, llamas usually like, you know, beat them up pretty easily. So that's why Prism Beam is a very good move. On top of that, can just place Sandstorm like as a move as well. I'm a huge fan of the Fluffar, trying to get a better one at that, and because of that, I'm actually going to put him in the best overall. Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to put him in the situational because he's insane. He does insane damage, but his ultimate does require you to have a higher special defense. So that's why I'm going to put him in situational. That doesn't mean he's worse than decent or very good. It just means he's a very situational monster. Frostelli. Frostelli is a very good monster in my opinion. On top of just able to place Leech Seed and just overall just abilities after abilities after abilities, it can also place Sleep Powder, which it combines with the trait Open Support, giving it a +1 priority, meaning if your guy isn't faster than me, or even if he is faster than me, I'm still going to be able to put this on your monster before you do anything to me, unless your guy is also using a priority move and you're faster than my guy, if that makes sense. So because of that, Frostelli does take PvE by storm and giving you a lot of time to just be able to just set up, honestly. So with that being said, I will say Frostelli is, let's go with very good, because Frostelli can like just place this first basically all the time, you don't really need to focus on her speed. You really need to focus on her damage. So that's why I'm putting her in the best overall, just because of her ability to just do insane amount of damage and just overall coverage, in my opinion. Well, maybe not in the best overall, but top of very good, in my opinion. Frostier, very, very good. Simply because when you are doing dungeons, insane. Frostier is like a must-have monster. So for that being said, I'm going to put him, I want to say situational, because he's only meta if you're going against multiple enemies. Okay? That's what I'm doing with situational. These aren't exactly in any order. They're more or less just like showing you who you could use in certain situations. You know what I mean? Gem Press. I personally think Gem Press is pretty insane for PvE. Simply because the other person doesn't really know how to deal with confusion because they are a computer. They don't really have the moves to deal with confusion. So if your Gem Press is just generally fast as crap, you should be able to just confusion and then just bink, bink, bop, and easy wipe. You know what I'm saying? So that should be easy, like, wipe with your Gem Press. Because if your guy's just faster than majority of the monsters, like example, if you just have them like maybe like top 550 speed, I would say you should outspeed any computer, NPC, etc. like pretty easily. Now, the reason I put Frostier in situational, it's because Glacitadel will replace Frostier in just pure ice damage. If you guys are unfamiliar with Glacitadel, he is right here. This is my Glacitadel. Snow Fiend as a trait, which sets snow for 5 turns, just basically giving the enemy frostbite, and then I can stack another 4 frostbite, and however much frostbites I have stacked on the enemy, I just gain 20 power instantly. Easy peasy. See what I'm saying? Frigid Force, same thing with that. Like it's just more damage. You know what I mean? So with that being said, Glacitadel is very, very good. I would say overall he can pack quite a punch. He is a little bit of setup. So with that being said, I'm gonna put him probably behind Clipexor because it does take a little bit more setup than Clipexor can. So Goliath. I will also be putting Goliath in the very good, just simply because he is also a bit of setup as well because of his core shock increasing his power, and then he can just spam quicksand, etc, etc, or he could just use radiance and also just farm his ultimate as well, same thing. So with that being said, Goliath is a very good monster, but I think he needs a bit more setup. So with that being said, I'm going to put him probably below Clipexor, simply because his is more just double damage, whereas Clipexor, even if he like hasn't set up already, he can still take your ultimate charge away. So that's why I'm going to be putting him below him. Leaf Blade is decent. I mean, there's nothing really to say about Leaf Blade. He's a starter monster. He's only really good for like the water area. Other than that, he's kind of buns because there's just better monsters, honestly. Meerfish, will be putting him in the top of very good, simply because he can just heal 60% of his HP. Now, I'm personally not a big fan of Meerfish, simply because of one grass move and he's kind of cooked. But however, Aqua heals 60% of max HP, and on top of that, I have seen people with like 1000 HP on Meerfish. So he's a very tanky monster, and the whole point of him is to basically just stay alive and just Aqua heal, you know? So I think he is a very good monster, but I'm gonna actually put Boltonia above him because because he is a little bit of prep, whereas he just needs to stay alive until his ultimate's ready, and then he just heal it back, you know. So he's not too much setup like Clipexor and Goliath, but he is still a little of a setup. So Boltonia is gonna be above him just because Boltonia is naturally just gonna be fast, so no setup. You know what I mean? Mopillo. I am not too familiar with Mopillo, to be honest. I've only ever seen one person really run Mopillo, and with that being said, Mopillo does know counter, which is a very good move. However, I don't personally use him too often, so I'm a little confused on when I would use him. But if anything, if I were to need a counter move, I would definitely be using Mopillo, as normal types are generally not really hurt by a lot of moves like elements, because their super effectiveness isn't really that crazy on Mopillo because of the normal type. So with that being said, situational for sure, just because of like the counter ability, like, you know what I mean, like the ability to just counter is just very strong, but very situational. Hamash, a very strong monster, but it does take a little bit of setup. Now I guess you could just kind of bum rush and just keep rider kicking to increase your attack, but with that being said, it does take a little bit of a setup because what's his name, Hamash is a very high damage monster. I will agree on that, yes, but because its abilities really shine when you buff him even more, I think he's a bit of a setup, and I don't really see him as like a crazy PvE monster, but he's still a very good monster just because of his pure stats alone. He just does insane amounts of damage. Spikeumain, also situational, simply because of his earthquake ability, giving him the earth advantage of AoE attacks, meaning like, you know, area of effect, you know what I'm saying? So he just attacks multiple targets, etc, etc. That's the point of AoE. So that's where Spikeumain will like play situational rather than decent, very good, etc, because I feel like he fits better in situational areas pretty much. Star Muse. I am not a huge fan of Star Muse. Star Muse is a very, how do I say, specific mon, simply because I stopped using Star Muse pretty quickly, as it wasn't really that good. Amazing at applying hallucination, but it takes a lot of setup, and on top of that, he isn't insanely crazy with his stats. So with that being said, I'm going to put him above Clan Xor because of his ability to just stack a bunch of sidekick and stuff like that and take advantage of the sidekick moves. I think he's very good, just a lot of prep in my opinion. Sunder Crane, this is kind of debatable. You could put him probably in very good, but typically speaking, I only use Sunder Crane for situational situations, simply because I use him as the same way I would use Frostier with his multi-hitting attacks. He has a ability to attack, like just a regular ability to just attack multiple enemies, and on top of that, his ultimate also attacks multiple enemies. So that's why I put him in situational. Teragon, a very good healing EVOMON. I'm going to put him above Chitladin because Teragon does heal a bit better, and on top of that, the trait is also a bit better. Simply because of Teragon's trait, it's able to negate 60% of the damage when he is at full HP. And you can kind of understand when Seed Bomb is 10%, or not 10, has 10 stacks of growth, I'm constantly getting back to full HP, making my trait even stronger. So basically, I'm unkillable if I actually get my 10 stacks up. Even if I don't get my 10 stacks up, I am still taking 60% less damage on the first attack, kind of making me able to build up my growth as we go on. So with that being said, I'm actually going to put Chitladin I'm going to put Chitladin above Teragon. Now let me tell you why. Teragon has a higher ceiling. Okay, has a higher ceiling, as in when Teragon is at its peak, it is way better than Chitladin. Okay, however, Chitladin is able to stack its poison way faster than Teragon is able to place its growth. That's how I'm gonna put Chitladin above Teragon in this list. Thorlord, a very good monster indeed. I'm going to put below Frostelli. If you guys are unfamiliar with Thorlord's game, he is pretty good. Can't lie. A very well-rounded stat EVOMON. On top of that, he is also able to learn smoke cover naturally, which makes it so that the monster has a harder time attacking you, like lowering their accuracy and everything else. So with that being said, a very overall good monster can take quite a beating without any setup, and on top of that, you could probably place a ton of smoke cover unless you're going against a super effective monster. So overall, very good monster. I would recommend getting him if you get the chance. He helped me throughout a lot of my challenges. On top of that, he has pretty good typing overall. But yeah, I think he has pretty good coverage and just overall like ability to just do crap, especially because of his ultimate, where it just has a +1 priority, making it so that you are gonna hit that Earth Fissure before the other person, most likely. So yeah. Tin Core. I was unfamiliar with Tin Core's game, but now that I have kind of expanded my horizons on Tin Core is a very good EVOMON. Even for PvE standards, he's a very good EVOMON, simply because he knows Protect, and on top of that, what I didn't know, which I found out last stream, he has a 300 fixed damage ultimate. Now, obviously, that's when the ultimate is a tier 3 ultimate, but when Magnetic Storm is at the tier 3 level, it deals 300 fixed damage, meaning it's always going to deal 300 damage. And if you make the build correctly, you can just continuously get HP and energy absorb and protect and build your ultimate back up and just, you know, just clap them up basically. And on top of that, after using Magnetic Storm like once or twice, you are increasing the damage of Thermal Ray. So that's, with that being said, Tin Core in my opinion is a very good monster. Perpetual, you don't really need to care about its legendary trait, but it's definitely still a good legendary trait to have. With that being said, Tin Core is a very good monster, but do I believe he is situational is the question. I believe he's a bit... I would say he's very good, actually. I would say he's very good at stalling and just doing overall damage. He definitely has a good bit of setup, but he has a lot of abilities to just kind of counteract and stall that setup. Whereas these guys don't really have anything to like protect themselves or like dodge damage while they set up. You know what I mean? Twirlby. From my knowledge, Twirlby doesn't really seem that crazy, but I did learn a couple of new things by Twirlby. Where is Twirlby? Twirlby. Right here. So, with its trait, Blight, foes active switch out past the stats drop to as a replacement, basically meaning I can put someone's stats onto the next person that comes out. So if I reduce this guy's like accuracy by 50%, I can put that onto the next EVOMON that he pulls out, essentially. From, at least that's from what my understanding of it is. So, Sucker isn't really crazy in PvE, as its bug moves are very heavily like... they're not really all that crazy in my opinion. Like the bug moves aren't really that crazy, considering there is a gem press that does the same thing just better. So in my opinion, Twirlby isn't really all that crazy. I'm gonna put him in decent. He is a decent typing, just I don't really see him being insane. You know what I'm saying? Viparch, a very fast, able to learn counter, and on top of that, able to double the stack of poison. A very good monster in my opinion. So as we see here, he's a very fast EVOMON as well, with a base stat of 106 speed, one of the fastest in the game. So with that being said, I've used Viparch quite a bit of times. Saved me a lot with the poison stacks and even the counter stacks, so it's a very good monster indeed. So with that being said, because he's so fast and usually has like stab most of the time, I'm going to put him as situational, simply because he has counter, and the ability to stack your poison is a lot of setup, but it's also a very situational setup, because most of the times you won't be needing to like stack all these effects on the like NPC you're going against. Vulcrest. So if you guys don't know who Vulcrest is a very popular EVOMON because he is the fastest EVOMON in the game with a 122 speed stat cap. So as you guys know, he is probably the king of bleed attacks and just overall dealing damage at super quick fast paces. And with that being said, do I believe he is the craziest monster? Not really, but at the same time, I think he is a very useful monster due to his speed. Obviously, gonna go over Boltonia just simply because Vulcrest is that little bit faster. See what I'm saying? Over here we have Wispex, also a situational EVOMON. Simply because Wispex is probably one of the best status placers in the game. If you guys don't know who Wispex is, this is Wispex. I named her Ruby. Because of the trait Evolve, skills inflicting poison also inflict 2 side mark stacks. Because of that, whenever they put on poison, they also add in side mark as well. So that's why she is probably the best status effect like placer in the game. But because of that, she's a very situational monster, because majority of the time you want to just do damage to beat the other person, because the fights don't usually last long enough for you to have to place a bunch of status effects. So that's why I say she's very situational. Whispin, same as Clan Xor and Goliath, and I'm actually going to put him above Clipexor because Whispin, from what I've heard, deals a bit more damage than the others. A lot of setup, however, once you kind of get her going, her base damage is pretty insane. Clamspire, not the biggest fan of Clamspire. Ability to learn Protect, which is a very good move, and on top of that, its ultimate is able to just completely buff all of its stats like easily. So with that being said, I would put him in situational. Yeah, probably situational, just because he's able to just stay alive for a long period of time. So he's a very situational monster. Example, like I already have a bunch of poison on one guy, so I just need this guy to stall him until the other guy dies from poison. You know what I mean? It's very situational in my opinion. And Pixie, from my knowledge, a very good fire monster, and on top of that, its trait is a very good counter to gem press. People who use confusion, maybe you're in the tower and you're going to get to gem press. Purify turn end removes 1 status or stat decrease, basically meaning I would remove the confusion that has been afflicted onto me by a gem press. So basically a complete counter to gem press, and a very good overall monster with a base speed of 109. So pretty fast as well. And on top of that, it knows a move called Soulburn Strike, which can apply fatigue. Fatigue is a status effect, basically skipping the EVOMON's turn. A very good move indeed. And with that being said, Pixie is going to jump all the way towards, I want to say, middle between Boltonia and Vulcrest, simply because of its Purify ability and just overall damage because of the fatigue. A very good monster overall. Lava Rock, best overall. I'm gonna put him above Gem Press simply because Lava Rock is able to heal with its legendary trait, the ability to place a crap ton of burn and just heal off of that damage. Now on top of that, it also knows Cremate, which can double the stack of burn, making it so that I can probably max out burn in 3, maybe 4 turns easily. And on top of that, it's able to know counter, and on top of that, it knows a weather damaging move with its ultimate. So basically just insane amounts of damage, basically 3 occurrences of damage with its counter, its burn, and its weather effects. So with that being said, best overall. He carried me through a lot of battles in the game. Pep Golem. I'm not too familiar with Pep Golem. I know he is an insane tank and he does insane damage. However, he is set back because of his exhaustion that happens to him whenever he does end up using a big, strong, damaging move. With that being said, I'm going to put him as very good. Just the slight drawback of the exhaustion from the die damaging moves. Sylvanarch. I heard Sylvanarch is a very good staying alive monster, kind of similar to Teragon, just not quite as good. With that being said, it's a lot of setup, probably above Glacitadel, just because Sylvanarch can heal from its moves. So with that being said, guys, the reason I have Archipex as the best overall monster in the tier list for PvE is just the ability to one-tap your opponent. Like, there is no other move that's going to top that as its trait. You know what I mean? Like, Archipex is able to one-tap majority of monsters that you will have to face in PvE. And because of that, that's why I will be putting him in the top of the meta tier list for the best overall PvE monster. So, let me know down in the comments below if you guys agree with me. If you don't, let me know. Maybe I placed some guys wrong you guys didn't like. Definitely let me know down in the comments below. And if you guys haven't already, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying my EVOMON content. And if you guys have any other questions, you know what I mean, like questions, concerns that you can't type down in my comments below, feel free to join my Discord in the description of the video. And I will also have the new codes probably on the screen. You probably already saw them, but you know, they could be in the description as well if you guys already skipped ahead and saw the, you know, the meta tier list, etc, etc. But yeah, guys, please stay tuned for the PvP tier list that will also be coming out pretty soon. So, you know what I'm saying, I have been dabbling in PvP, as you guys already know. Maybe you missed my stream. I am Diamond Challenger, and I have beat my fair share of champions and just overall, like, guys in general in the game. So I would say I'm at least a little bit knowledgeable on the game, or PvP, enough to kind of give you guys an insight in a tier list myself. But enough yapping. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see y'all in the next video. Later!